Great. Thank you so much for joining us. I have the great honor of being able to introduce one of my former students, Wolfe. She is an amazing student, and now she is one of our fantastic multimedia communication tutors and mentors. We're super proud of her, and we look forward to you experiencing her discoveries and enjoy what she has to share. Ray, thank you for being an inspiration to all of your classmates, and I hope a new inspiration to all of you. Take it away.
Thank you for doing that, Zinnia. So I really want to say thank you all for being here today. As I'm still pretty new to this community, I just really can't thank you guys enough for being so welcoming. It's really been honestly life-changing to have this community. So I'll just get right into it. Today we're going to be discussing the topic of virtual worlds as a tool for overcoming perfectionism. Okay, looks like I needed to reset my speakeasy, so I'm sorry about that. I was trying to go through this earlier. Okay, there we go. So today we're going to be going over about me, my second life experience, what is perfectionism, the pros and cons of perfectionism, who perfectionism affects, ways virtual worlds can help, these concepts in action, another reason these tools matter, what you can do, and then we'll have some time at the end for questions and discussion. And Beth, I'm going to get to that. So a little bit about me. My name is Rachel Wolfe, but I do prefer to go by Ray Wolfe. My background and experience, I'm still fairly new to virtual worlds like Second Life, but I have been exploring and utilizing video game worlds for as long as I can remember. I'm currently working as a blog writer for Forever Tourist and tutoring multimedia students at Peninsula College. In my spare time, I'm also starting my own business focused on supporting mothers. As far as trainings and certifications, I have an associate's in applied science degree in multimedia communication, web and interactive design, and oh my, that is a mouthful. My degree is from the same place I tutor, which is Peninsula College. And from the same place, I also have certificates in web design, digital video, and digital image editing. My second life experience. So, just a disclaimer, I did have a little bit more experience probably 10 years ago, but I came in and just kind of didn't understand what was going on, and I never came back until my first real experience with Second Life was when my instructor, Renee, or as you guys probably know her, Zinnia, had me come enrolled as part of a 3D modeling class. I've always loved building in video game worlds, so I was really excited to see all the possibilities for creating environments and objects in Second Life. After creating my first two 3D objects in Blender, Zinnia helped me bring them into Second Life to tweak them a bit before placing them along the superhero's journey at the Peninsula College Sim. I was amazed at how I was able to connect with my instructor and peers and work alongside them. It gave me a sense of community I had been lacking. Soon after this, I returned for additional school projects, and before I knew it, I was attending the nonprofit commons meetings and buying myself a wolf avatar. I was having so much fun that I decided to focus my honors project on building a meeting spot of my own to go with my honors project studio. While working on that project, I realized how working in Second Life was helping me to overcome my perfectionism and unleash my creativity. So I do know that you all must be thinking, isn't perfectionism a good thing? While perfectionism is often thought of in a positive light, it can actually be very damaging. Before I get into this, let's review the definition of perfectionism. So, perfectionism is a noun, and it means the refusal to accept any standard short of perfection. That's right, it is a trap. So, let's start with a few good things about perfectionism. One, high quality work. Perfectionists tend to produce higher quality work than the average person. Two, right the first time. The desire to make everything perfect ensures perfectionists get their work done correctly the first time. And three, reliability. As perfectionists are afraid of failure, they are unlikely to be late or have work missing. And now the bad, and you probably already see that there's more bad than good. So, one, procrastination. The fear of failure can make a perfectionist avoid doing things until the last second. And I feel like this is the most one that like confuses people because typically procrastination is associated with being lazy, which is not really something that people associate with perfectionism. Number two, criticism is damaging. Perfectionists are deeply affected by any negative criticism to the point that it is devastating to their mental health. Number three, never good enough. Perfectionists often feel that their work could always be better. They will spend too much time on the small details and never feel proud of their work. I know I'm really guilty of this one. Number four, can never say no. Saying no to people can feel like a form of failure, so perfectionists often say yes to things they don't really want to do. Now, I'd like to ask you guys, what do you think some pros and cons of perfectionism are? Yeah, Monica, definitely people pleasing. And exactly, I never say no to people. Yeah, that's Buffy. I'll keep that in mind, Zinnia. Yeah, that's definitely my biggest problem is I spend way too much time on things when it was good probably years ago. Yeah, I think the reliability of a perfectionist is probably not, if not the most important one, close to the most important one. Okay, those are all really good stuff, guys. I'm gonna keep going. That's interesting, Beth. So, issues perfectionism can cause. Perfectionism can be a side effect and or the cause of many mental health issues. Probably the most obvious being anxiety. Many perfectionists become consumed with thoughts about what might happen if something is not perfect. In some cases, it is the perfectionism that is causing this anxiety, and in other cases, people become perfectionistic to try and avoid any possible issues that could arise from things not being just right. Another thing that perfectionism can cause is depression. The value that perfectionists place on being perfect can become their whole identity. Because of this, even the smallest of failures can make a perfectionist feel like they are inherently bad. This low self worth can lead to depression. And of course, eating disorders are another thing that perfectionism can cause. The desire to be perfect can drive a person to unhealthy eating habits. In some cases, it is the desire to look perfect that causes a person to become overly concerned with their appearance. And other times, it's that they feel they need to see a certain number on the scale to be perfect. And I think this one probably is the most dangerous, as eating disorders are actually, I think, the number one mental illness that people die from. So I want to know too, what do you think can cause perfectionism or be a side effect of perfectionism? Yeah, definitely things that are traumatic. I think that kind of goes in hand with the anxiety thing where it almost becomes a coping mechanism. Yeah, definitely overthinking. Yeah, that's true. I think when you try to be perfect all the time, you expect the same of others. And then it becomes almost like a cycle. Yeah, Max, I want to circle back to that later. I actually have some stuff to say on that that I thought of after making this. Okay. So, who does perfectionism affect? While signs of perfectionism may be more prevalent in people under pressure to succeed, such as students, athletes, and professionals, it can show up at any point in life. Would anyone like to share about their personal experience with perfectionism? I know for me, it's been something that's affected me my whole life, but I didn't really know the word for it until the last couple of years when I was in college. Zinnia, I definitely think you can be a perfectionist about some things and not others. Like, I know a lot of people that get really concerned about their professional life and their work or their schoolwork, but then abandon things like household stuff or their relationships with people. Or even sometimes people are perfectionist about their work but not their hobbies, so they can almost like turn it off. Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, I think that is actually really important. You're right, Max. It's kind of like the unrealistic like expectation that people create. I think that's really become a problem too, just with social media and stuff. People see these things that are like literally unattainable because of things like Photoshop. Right, Zinnia. It is good to let them know we are human. And I think it's almost comforting too when people see another person make a mistake, and I think we have to remember that. Yeah, I think we also tend to really respect people when they own up to those mistakes. So let's get into ways that virtual worlds can help us with these problems. So first, they are a safe place to make mistakes. They're a place where we can receive support from others, and they're a place where we can have less focus on our physical appearance. So, a safe place to practice making mistakes. The first step in this one is to make a mistake. Intentionally don't give something 100% and allow yourself to make mistakes. Step 2, feel the discomfort. Allow yourself to really feel the panic that comes from making the mistake. Don't push the feeling aside. And step 3, reflect. Think about why you felt the way you did and what the consequences of the mistake really were. I feel like this last one is really important because I think we get in our head and think, if I do something wrong, the world is going to end, and that's really not the case. So keeping on that same idea, having a place where mistakes are easily undone can make the idea of something being less than perfect far less daunting to perfectionists. In virtual worlds, a perfectionist can practice making all kinds of mistakes, from building objects, designing spaces, or even socializing. It's always possible to delete, undo, or teleport away. Being able to make a mistake safely allows the perfectionist to reflect and realize nothing terrible happened as a result of the mistake. Oh, I like that, Beth. I feel like that kind of would hold you accountable. Support from others. Step 1 for this is to find a group. There are groups for nearly every topic in Second Life. There is sure to be one everyone can enjoy. I'm sure a lot of you are seeing that here at this conference. Step 2, get involved. Attend meetings and events or contribute to a group discussion. Step 3, be supported. Once you're acquainted with the other group members, you will likely discover you have a new support system. And this one has been very true for me. I just started attending the nonprofit commons meetings around this time last year, and that's what's gotten me to this point. Oh my gosh, Buffy. Yeah, my issues with clothes are actually why I switched to the Wolfe avatar. I was tired of showing up places and accidentally being nude. Oh my gosh, this is hilarious to hear about. It's not just me getting naked on accident. In front of your class, Ellie. So, on this same topic, support from others, as many perfectionists have anxiety, finding a support group can be difficult. Some people may also struggle to find others with similar interests near where they live. In a virtual world, it's much easier to connect with a wide range of people and find a support system without having to face any of the challenges of leaving home. The more perfectionists begin to feel like they are supported, the more they will begin to feel like they are worthy of praise and love, and thus start to feel less pressure to be absolutely perfect all the time. I think this topic is really important too, because it's like almost as if we're kind of built up to being perfectionists from everything we've learned throughout our entire life. And then, at least for my situation, it was when I got into college and started meeting other people other than like my parents who had told me I had to be perfect. and start interacting with others that were like, well, that's not the case, that you start to realize it's okay to make mistakes. It's not going to cost you your entire career. So the last part of these tools is less focus on appearance. Step one is decide how to present yourself. In virtual worlds, you get to decide exactly who you want to be. Step two, find yourself an avatar. There are plenty of avatars to choose from. You don't even have to be human. Step three, enjoy the peace of mind. Once you've found how you're most comfortable, you can focus on other things. Many perfectionists don't feel comfortable with their physical appearance. This can make meeting platforms where camera is utilized, such as Zoom, very distracting. Instead of being able to focus on the meeting itself, a perfectionist might become too overwhelmed with the thought that they do not look good in the camera. Meeting in a virtual world can alleviate this, as the perfectionist can choose what they look like. Though in some cases, this may not completely solve the problem, as some people may also become worried about their avatar and that they don't look perfect either, but it's a good place to start. These concepts in action. I personally used all these ideas when I was working on my honors project, The Reflection Pond. I also put these tools into action for this presentation. Now that I'm tutoring multimedia students at the college I graduated from, I have been encouraging them to come into Second Life so they can take advantage of these tools as well. I have noticed the students seem much more at ease and willing to try out new things in a virtual environment. They seem a lot more excited about the work too. Can anyone think of other situations where these tools would be helpful? And I'd like to hear from the couple of you that are in the audience that have been the students that I've tutored. That's good to hear, Linda. And Monica, I think it's important to understand that, like, it can feel like you're the only one that's struggling, but then when you know other people are, it can feel a lot less overwhelming. Yeah, if you're one of Zinnia's students and you come into these things, you get to get out of doing other assignments. Yeah, you can't get out of the hardest stuff, but some things. That's a really good point because most of the people I have interacted with are older and I am Gen Z, and it is crazy how easily we're able to connect. Like, there's no difference. That's a good point, Linda. It is hard to know. So, another reason these tools matter. While tutoring, I have realized that I'm able to better retain some of the information from lessons the students are working on that I had also taken when I was a student. I believe this is because I am not experiencing the pressure to get a perfect grade. I feel this is important to point out because it's possible that many perfectionist students are so stressed that they are, in a sense, in survival mode and not truly learning. This is a concept I'd really like to investigate more in the future, perhaps for next year's conference. Something happened in my slides, so let me get back through them. Exactly, Dee Dee. When we're in that like super stressful place of like feeling in that fight or flight mode, we can't actually retain information. We can't learn. Yeah, I really think students need to feel supported in everything, especially when there's things going on outside of school that you might not know about. It's really hard to focus when it feels like your whole life is crashing around you. Yeah, Eden, I've noticed that when you're in Second Life, it feels like you're having fun, but when you're in something like Blender, it feels a lot more serious. So, what can you do to help? You can use these tools yourself. You can try using these tools yourself, even if you don't consider yourself to be a perfectionist, they can still be beneficial. You can also share these tools with others. Share these tools and concepts with anyone you know that might be struggling with perfectionism. If you are an educator, please consider sharing these with your students as it may really help them transform how they are learning. Yeah, the teaching to test really is horrible. Like, we're just memorizing it long enough to put it on some paper and not actually understanding the information. I feel like I was very lucky because my experience in college was all just projects, really. I didn't really have any tests, so I didn't have to just memorize random facts. I actually had to learn how to do the work. But definitely in high school, I don't remember a thing I learned in high school. So these are some of the sources I used. Much of the information in these slides came from my own personal experiences with utilizing virtual worlds, but I did also use these websites and articles, so you guys can check those out. And we're already kind of doing this, but let's now take some time for questions and discussion. And you guys can use the voice chat so you don't just have to put everything in the chat.
Hi, this is Buffy.
Hi, Buffy.
Yeah, you've given me a lot to think about, and it's really validating to hear, read, and hear some of your points, and especially about perfection and how it really trickles down to everybody's life. I think, and if you can recognize that you are a perfectionist, because I think I am. I didn't really realize it until some things were pointed out to me, and I went, okay, well, I guess I'll have to let that go, but I couldn't. So thank you for this today. I just wanted to make that comment about how touching it is, and thank you. You've come a long way. So uh, have a have a great rest of the conversation, and I hope other people join in here too.
I really appreciate that. I really wanted to contribute something here since I've gained so much from all of you. Yeah, Dee Dee, if we do everything or expect to do everything perfectly, we can't really discover anything new. That's exactly right. I think that's a big problem I'm really seeing with my generation is we all want this instant gratification, and if we start something and we're not immediately good at it, we just quit.
Ray, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay, great. Um, this is Linda, and I just wanted to two things. One, congratulate Ray because she worked really hard on this and was kind of nervous about whether she could do it, and she knocked it out of the ballpark as far as I'm concerned. It's an
Oh,
excellent
thank you.
presentation, and I think you brought out some things that we can all use. Um, I know I have perfectionist tendencies with a lot of things. And one of the good things about the undo button, it keeps you from being too much of a perfectionist. But this gives us tools to help our students. And I had a bunch of honor students that if I had known about this, I could have helped them better um, to 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 be accepting that they're not perfect and that I'm not going to be perfect. So thanks for providing this. And if you thought you wanted to make a contribution, you definitely have. So thank you very much.
Thank you. That's really been my goal was to get this information out so people don't
Yep,
feel so alone.
yep, you did it.
Nam says, a wise woman I know says, if you have to fall, bounce, which is something that Zinnia's mom says. Yeah, Max, anything worth doing is worth doing badly. That's something I've been really trying to remind myself of. Heaven is just real life with an undo button. Oh my god.
Hi, I'm Betsy, and I teach ADHD and dyslexics in here, and I am one myself. And I think it's really helpful because we tend to be perfectionists and a lot of times don't achieve because of that, because it's like we feel defective. But I don't use failure. You just have to redo it in whichever way until you get it to it, like it's if you did percentages of 70% or where it's acceptable but not perfect. And I have seen kids who won't do anything in public schools come in here and work with, we don't concentrate on tests and accomplish things that amaze me. I had a student recently create a whole restaurant that he had drawn a picture of when he, or the design for when he was 12, and it was amazing.
Wow. Yeah, I'd be interested to hear from you about teaching in here for people with ADHD and dyslexia, because those are both things that I've struggled with. And I don't know if you probably know about this, and I know people are just starting to see this, how underdiagnosed that's been in some people because anxiety tends to win out. I know that was my situation. I had ADHD since I was a kid and went undiagnosed until I was an adult because I was so scared to act out that I just sat there and zoned out and didn't say anything.
Yes, I was like that, and I remember telling my second grade teacher, I'm going to become a teacher so I can teach people how to teach me. and and
That's a
so
great way to put it.
that, that's what I did. And I've been out of school for 35 years, and I don't teach like the public school, and it really does work very well.
Yeah, I think the way school traditionally works, I went to just like a regular school from the time I was in kindergarten until I was in seventh grade, and then I started going to online school, and I really did find that freedom of getting to do things more on my own time and in the way I wanted to do them helped me learn so much better. I went from failing all my classes to straight A's within a couple of months.
That is actually what has happened. Usually within 6 months, my kid, they come into me failing, getting E's and failing grades, and within 6 months they're getting A's and B's, and sometimes for the first time in their life, and they they don't even know what to think about it. It's like, did I really do that? Did I really And I said, yeah. I said, if you put some effort into it, you can succeed.
Aww. It must be really eye-opening for them to like not have to feel like they're not smart enough anymore. It's so hard when we're just like all expected to be smart in the same way and only see one standard of being smart when there's different ways to show it. Yeah, Electra, they're realizing how much women are underdiagnosed as far as ADHD goes. That's definitely been my experience. I don't think I knew anybody in school that was a girl that was diagnosed with ADHD. It was always the boys.
I think you're right, but there's a 90% but as a dyslexic can't say that word, there's a 90% chance that if you are dyslexic, you are also somewhat ADD or ADHD, and vice versa.
Oh,
And
wow.
my husband is ADHD, and he's also somewhat dyslexic. I am very dyslexic, but I have ADHD too. And there's a lot of things. Believe me, I've spent a lifetime studying it, and it's very interesting. It's also interesting that all our great, Einstein, Ford, Edison, Tesla, all dyslexic.
Wow. I have very bad ADHD symptoms, but my dyslexia, I didn't even realize was dyslexia because I can read pretty much fine, but whenever there's letters and numbers next to each other, I start reading them as one or other. I can't differentiate. Like I'll call a Z a 7, and I
Yeah,
can't understand that it's not a letter or a number.
yeah. And our brains kind of do phonetics, plus we do shapes, and so we don't look at it the same. And with me, as long as the letters are in the word, my brain doesn't care what order.
Ray has been a wonderful advocate to share the student's perspective with our Virtual Worlds Education Consortium partners. So definitely picking her brain is welcome.
Yeah, you can ask me whatever you want. It doesn't even have to be necessarily exactly related to this topic. What do I blog about? I've been writing blogs for Forever Tourist, which is pretty much I just go around to different locations and write about what's there to do and see. And how am I wanting to help moms? I want to educate moms as well because I feel like there's so much that we don't understand. Like we're going against our natural instincts because we're told that we're not good enough, or we stuff like with breastfeeding and sleep training, things like that. Monica, thanks Beth for coming. Hopefully we'll see you later at the closing stuff. There's one thing I wanted to mention, I said I was going to come back to, that I thought of after getting this all finished up. And that was, I think it's really important to try to avoid turning people into perfectionists to begin with, because I think a lot of that can happen in school. And I think one of the ways to do that is always trying to point out something positive about a student's work anytime that you have to point out something negative. And instead of using phrases like, this is good, but try to reverse it and say, well, you might have some spelling errors, but your overall presentation is really good. Because I really think leaving things on a positive note will help students want to keep working on it and get better versus feeling so defeated. That's actually something I learned in training dogs. Oh geez, lots of stuff coming in at once. Yeah, that always makes me a bit annoyed when people evaluate my stuff and start with the good to jump to the bad. Makes me feel like they are talking down at me. Yeah, that's exactly kind of what I was trying to say. What do you think would help encourage other students to stay in Second Life? I think just giving them things to do in here. I think when they come in and they're just like, okay, now what? It is kind of hard. I think that's what got me to stay in here was tasks and like having my own place. Like Zinnia gave me my own studio to make my own, and that really helped because I felt like I belonged here. Actually, Monica could tell you a little bit about that, Sandra. I'm the one that got her to come in here and stay in here, and now she's at this conference. Yeah, I think this place can be just so overwhelming that it's really important to have a like home base to come back to and end your day and be like, okay, this is where I belong. Yeah, making you buy all those plants, then you never have enough plants. Yeah, Monica, when you feel like you're wanted also and like people care about you, that's another way you'll get people to stay. If anyone needs a plant, I do sell some plants and potion bottles that I created. Piratus, do you mean for tutoring or just in general? How do you schedule your day's time in blocks? In general. Well, I have, like I said, I have ADHD, so I don't really schedule well. I just kind of like sporadically do things. But yeah, and I have a baby, so it kind of makes it impossible to schedule things right now. But the way I used to do things is I would start with the most difficult things in the morning to give myself the confidence from completing those tasks, and then I would do the easier stuff. Oh, geez. That is how Amish do it, hardest stuff first. Yeah, I feel like that's a really good way. But I know some people are the opposite and they need to like do the easier stuff and work their way up. But I feel that like I get overwhelmed when I have this like scarier thing looming over me that I can't focus on the easier stuff, so I have to just like get it out of the way. Dee Dee, if you could send that to me, that'd be good so I can pass it on to any students that I encounter. Okay, we can keep discussing. Before we wrap up, I do want to share this last slide with places that you can find me. If you'd like to contact me here or out of here, my email and my Instagram. I have a note card too that I forgot to pass out as I'm still so new to this. I don't know how to mass hand that out. That'd be great if you can do that. The note card has all the key points from here, all the links to the articles that I used, and all of my contact information. And the URL to my project, the Reflection Pond, which kind of ties in with this concept because it's a place where you can go and reflect and relax. Thank you, Zinnia. Did you ever try medication to treat your ADHD? I actually was on Adderall and it did work, but it kind of worked too much to the point where I would stay up for days on end and just forget to eat. And then I went off of it when I decided I wanted to have a child. Walking lots and exercise and lots of to-do lists has helped me. Yeah, Monica, that's been kind of my experience. I do take saffron supplements now for my ADHD, and obviously it doesn't work as well as something like Adderall, but it does help, I've found. Eating clean, yeah. I think too, just trying not to be so overstimulated too by just like scrolling endlessly and being so distracted. I think it's important to take a second and be mindful about things. Thank you, Dee Dee. Open that so I can save it. So, what have you guys taken from this that you might want to share with others? To be more aware of where others might be at. Yeah, I think it's really important to remember that not everyone is thinking exactly the same way you are. Thank you for coming, Chandra. Chandra, I'm sorry if I'm saying your name wrong. Yep, see you later, Nam. the whole thing. I had not thought of SL as a place to deal with perfectionism. Yeah, I feel like virtual worlds really can be used for so many things, and that's been my experience. Everyone I've encountered here uses it in different ways. I think that's really like in the general public, people don't understand that. I think they really see it as a place for a lot of adult content and people trying to just escape their real life instead of seeing it as something that can be a part of your real life and aid in that. Well, that's all our time, guys, so thank you for being here, and I really hope that you enjoy the rest of the conference. Thank you, guys. Yep, if you haven't added me and you'd like to, go ahead. I'm really open to being friends with everybody.